good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending when in the day you're watching this episode of Data-Driven Formula One. My name is Patrick Henz, and I welcome you to a new episode. Mostly Ganapo Grefner and I, we are doing this jointly. Sometimes I'm doing this solo episode, focusing on a smaller topic, which we maybe forgot on the way to explain a little bit better, or something where we decided not to include in our regular episode. So now one of these episodes is today about the Tasman series. Tasman, we mentioned various times in our episodes about seasons 1960s to 1970s, because here we are speaking about a series which happened in the European winter and have been organized from January to March in the year. This to attract European teams and drivers to come to New Zealand and Australia. If possible, please look to follow this episode on YouTube Music, and Spotify, because here you see it with the images. For example, you see here the Tasmanian Devil on the racetrack. If you are driving yourself, maybe, then please look for one of the audio-only episodes, which you can find on practically all podcast catchers. But with this, let's dive into today's episode. As mentioned, we're speaking about the Tasman Series. The Tasman Series, also officially known as the Tasman Championship for Drivers, was an annual motor racing competition held from 1964 to 75 across New Zealand and Australia. It was named after the Tasman Sea, which separates the two nations. The races typically took place between January and late February or early March, coinciding with the Formula One off-season. This scheduling capitalized on the Northern Hemisphere winter, drawing many top drivers and teams to compete in the Southern Hemisphere summer. The winner of the series was awarded the Tasman Cup, a permanent trophy. So why was this attractive for drivers and teams? Because it gives you additionally exposure to the fans, marketing reasons. But also, please consider that drivers did not earn the millions of dollars salaries as today, so it was a welcomed additional income stream for the drivers, but also for the teams. Besides this, of course, racing provided you important data experience, which you can use then after this in beginning of spring for the new Formula One season. So there are various reasons why back in the time this was attractive for drivers and teams. We had 4 races in New Zealand. All of them had been used in the complete time, 64 to 1975. First, Levin Circuit, Pukekohe Park Raceway, Windrum Airfield Circuit, and Teretonga Park. And from Teretonga Park, you see here on the right the image. So a quite nice but small racetrack far away from the city, but it looks like an interesting place to race. Long straights, a lot of curves. So as a driver, I would say this is a place where you like to be. Australia, we had more races, but not all of them had been used for the whole season. The seasons, Sandowan International Motor Raceway, this year, 64 to 75, but then Warwick Farm Raceway from 64 only to 73. Then the Lakeside International Raceway in Brisbane, used in the first year, 64, and then also in 66 and 67. Longford Circuit, you see an image from nearby on the right. This one has been directly located in Tasmania. This one had been used 64 to 68, then Surfers Paradise International Raceway 68, and then 1970 until the end in 75. Adelaide International Raceway, the racetrack we also known from the official Formula One races. This had been used 72 to 75. Last but not least, Oran Park near Sydney. And this only we only had here races in 74 and 75. So the combination of these races led to the to the drivers' championship, we did not have manufacturers or team championships. A little bit the history in 1960, so before the official start, the Tasman started as a series of unrelated races in Australia and New Zealand. Then in 64, it was resumed to have a championship called the Tasman Cup, a championship only for drivers. Until 69, open-wheel single-seater regulations, including Formula One engines due to 1960 rules. Here we're speaking about 2.5-liter engines. Then in 66, the Formula One regulations changed to 3-liter engines, while the Tasman Series stayed with 2.5-liter engine. I would assume this for cost reasons, even though on the other hand, we had here a problem that you could not use anymore Formula One cars one-to-one for the Tasman Series, so you had to change the cars, and I will show you some examples in this episode. In the 1970s, to fill up the field, also Formula 5000 cars could compete. These are cars from a lower cost series, but with bigger engines, up to 5-liter. In 72, engines had been reduced from 2.5-liter to 2-liter, so practically Formula 2 regulations, something near that. Then in 1976, remember, 75 had been last year of the series. The former Australian Tasman races became the Rodman's International Series, which had been organized from 76 until 79, so not a big life after. And the New Zealand races became the Peter Stuyvesant Series, next year renamed to Formula Atlantic. As you see here, the importance of big tobacco in the 70s. Both Rosemans and Peter Stuyvesant had been cigar brands. Just if you're interested in tobacco in Formula One, we did a 2-episode special. Please search a little bit in our episode. Just scroll down, and here you learn everything about tobacco in Formula One. Most successful drivers have been with each three championship, British Jim Clark, you see here on the left, and Graham McCree. Now, let's analyze a little bit each season. First season, 1964. If you follow the Formula One, you should remember all these names. Winner Bruce McLaren driving a Cooper T70 with the Climax engine already for his own team, the McLaren team. Second, Jack Brabham with the Brabham BT78, also Climax engine, and also he participated already with his own Brabham team. Then third, Danny Hulme also with Brabham for the Brabham team. On the left, you see a photo, Bruce McLaren from a little bit later, 1966, and a photo of the Brabham BT7A as used by Jack Brabham and Danny Hulme. And this is the Brabham BT78 directly with the Tasman specification. Next year, Jim Clark successful with the Lotus 32B. Again, Climax engine, and this for the Lotus team. Jim Clark, you see on the left, photo was taken 2 years earlier from 1963. And also you see the winning car, the Lotus 32B, also here with the Tasman specifications. Second, Bruce McLaren with the Cooper T79 Climax for the McLaren team, and again Jack Brabham for the Brabham team using the newer Brabham BT11A Climax engine. Next year, season 1966, winner, another very famous driver, Jackie Stewart, driving the BRM P261 for the BRM team. Second, three-time world champion Graham Hill, same car, same team. And also the third, another famous name from Formula One, again, 65 champion Jim Clark driving the Lotus 39, of course, for the Lotus team. On the right, you see the car. Jackie Stewart is in this BRM P261. As typical for British cars, dark green livery, and to distinguish the different teams, you see maybe some kind of stripe. In this case, we see an orange one. 67, Jim Clark, again successful now with the Lotus 32, still with the Climax engine. The car you see on the right, as explained, dark green British team, and here Lotus typically has a yellow stripe. Jackie Stewart only second this year with the BRM P261, so the same car for the BRM team, and also Jack Brabham successful again, this time with the Brabham BT2223/A. 68, we see again successful Formula One drivers. Number one, Jim Clark with the Lotus 3090, and slowly it's a time of Cosworths, not only in Formula One, but also used in the Tasman Series. With the Lotus, and of course for the Lotus team, new participant had been the Dino 246 Tasmania, and this is Dino, the brand of the six-cylinder Formula One engines, not only Formula One, but the six-cylinder race engines from Ferrari, as they not have been branded Ferrari, but the smaller six cylinders had been called Dino. This related to his son Dino Ferrari, who was had a leading function in the development of this smaller engine, which had been used in sports car racing, but also Formula One and Tasman Series. So here on the right, you see the Ferrari 246 with the Tasman specification. Especially, you see here the six-cylinder engine used by Australian driver Chris Amon, who also participated in Formula One. Very talented in Formula One, never reached the championship, but in the Tasman Series later on, this should be the case. So first year for the Italians in Down Under. Then Piers Courage, third position with the McLaren M48A, also with the newer Cosworth engine. 69, as already mentioned, championship for Chris Amon with the Dino 246 Tasmania. Also, you see him here on the photo at the races. And they had not been used this year directly by Scuderia Ferrari, but by the Australian Scuderia Veloce. But this was in 69 the officially Ferrari works team for the Tasman Series. So for logistic reasons, they not organized it themselves with the European team, everybody traveling to New Zealand, Australia, but they worked with the local Scuderia Veloce and supported them, so they started as a works team using the Dino 246 Tasmania. Second position, Austrian Jochen Rindt with the Lotus 49B Cosworth starting for the Lotus team. And third, again, Piers Courage with the Brabham BT24 Cosworth car, but starting for Frank Williams Racing. Yes, Frank Williams have been the founder of Williams Racing, but nevertheless, there's no direct continuation between Frank Williams Racing and Williams, because Frank Williams sold his team and then started a new team, then called Williams again. So, of course, same founder, but not a direct line between Frank Williams Racing and today's Williams Racing. 1970, the beginning of 70s, we see that due to the changes in regulations, also as Formula One has included more and more races, became more and more professional. There wasn't that much budget or resources for European teams to go to New Zealand, Australia in winter, develop own cars for the series. So we see less and less or practically known European drivers in the 70s. First position championship for Graham Lawrence, still driving the Dino 246 Tasmania, but for his own. Second, Frank Matic having a McLaren M10A with a Chevrolet engine for the Matic team, and Kevin Bartlett driving for Alec Mildren Racing, driving a Mildren Mono Wagot. So again, we see winning driver Ferrari, Dino 246, Tasmania, but more and more we see now the bigger and a little bit more cheaper Australian and US engines. Now, 1971, Graham McRae, as here on the photo, driving a McLaren M10B Chevrolet, similar to what you see here on the photo, just with a different engine, as this is the Formula One setup of the car, driving for the Crown Line team. Then Frank Matic, again, second position with the McLaren M10B, as all the three positions drive the McLaren M10B, just we see different engine. Holden for Frank Matic, even though Holden, I think already in 71 had been part of General Motors, same as Chevrolet. Nevertheless, a different engine, an Australian, as Holden is originally an Australian company. Then on the third position, Neil Allen with the McLaren M10B, as mentioned, and again with a Chevrolet engine. 72, Graham McRae, successful again with a Leda GM1, Chevrolet powered. The car you see here on the photo. So this is a quite unique car for the Tasman Series, starting for the grid team. Then Mike Hellwood with a Surtees TS811 powered with Chevrolet, and this had been a car had been used by the Surtees team. So here, one of the examples where we had a team who also participated at Formula One at this year, even though Surtees had been one of the smaller teams. And maybe you can imagine that they used these opportunities of the Tasman Series, as I've mentioned, to have an additional income stream. Frank Gardner with the Lola T300 Chevrolet, starting for the Lola team on the third position. Again, we see Graham McRae as champion, also in 73, again with the same car, the Leda GM1 Chevrolet Power, this time for the STP team, as this is a manufacturer of car liquids. I may assume it's the same team, but just for marketing reasons, they took on the name of their main sponsor. On second position, John McCormack with the Alfin MR5 with Holden engine for the Alfin team. And another known name, Frank Matic with the Matic A50 Holden for his own team. 74, Warwick Brown with the Lola T332 Chevrolet Power. Graham Lawrence, same car, same engine, and Johnny Walker, no relation to the Scotch company, but same car for the Walker team. This car, the Lola 332, you see quite typical, the same as we saw in Formula One. That year, the high air intakes over the driver, quite interesting, unique design we only had then in the middle of the 1970s. And that's all I wanted to share you today. I hope this explains a little bit more the Tasman series, so you have at least an idea what we are talking about when we mentioned Tasman series in our episode about late 60s to the middle of 1970s. I hope you enjoyed this shorter episode. If you did so, please give it a like and please follow us, subscribe would be highly appreciated. As mentioned, you find us in the video version on YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify, on all other podcast catchers, you get the audio version. If you are into music and have Spotify, please have a look on the Data Driven F1 mixtape. Here you find a collection of songs which have been directly inspired by the sports and by particular drivers. Okay, but that's really for all. Hope to see you for the next episode. Maybe together again with Skanna Pogrevna. We will see. Until this, have a good time. Bye bye.